12 spine-chilling encounters, the sinister neighbor who haunted me night after night revealed. In the quiet suburb of Glenwood Heights, fear lurked just next door. The first night it happened, Sarah froze when she heard the laughter, a child's laughter echoing through her rundown house like a soft, chilling wind. It twisted from the shadows, wrapping around her, and sent a bolt of ice through her veins. Her heart pounded violently as she scanned the darkness clinging to the corners. Just last week, she and her 7-year-old son, Liam, had moved in, hoping for a fresh start. But the eerie neighborhood felt more like a cavernous pit of dread than a safe haven. Mr. Thompson, their frail, ever-present neighbor, stood outside his home with his peculiar smile, as if he knew too many secrets. He lingered, watching, his gaze weighing heavy on Sarah's shoulders. At first, she brushed it off as paranoia, remnants of her bitter divorce dealing with a controlling ex. Now, that paranoia seeped into her skin. What should have been comforting routines morphed into rituals of anxiety. Every rustle outside awakened a primal dread. Little things began to pile up, Liam talking to empty corners, shadows flitting by the windows at odd hours. It all clawed at her sanity. Then the laughter grew louder, a child calling to her, beckoning from the dark. At school drop-off, whispers snaked through the air amongst the other mothers. "Did you hear about Thompson? Rumor is he has been around for decades." The words echoed in her mind, with tales of vanished children haunting Glenwood Heights. Each story painted Mr. Thompson not as a harmless old man, but as a puppet master orchestrating unseen horrors. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the nights grew longer, her world tightened like a noose. She clutched a cup of coffee, her last defense against fatigue. It was on one of those restless nights, staring out at her neighbor's empty porch, that she saw him, his shadow flickering in the moonlight. Sarah instinctively drew back, the panic blooming in her throat. Why was he there? What was he waiting for? A gust of wind howled through the trees, sending shivers down her spine. The laughter echoed again, clearer, more pronounced. It swirled around her, desperate and high-pitched, reminding her of innocence meant to be guarded. But she felt exposed, a target in a game she didn't even want to play. Tensions rolled in waves with every creak of the floorboards beneath her. There was no escaping the dread that hung thick in the air. Mr. Thompson's eyes seemed to pierce through her, discovering her weaknesses, as if playing the most dangerous game by himself. As she stepped onto her porch to confront him, storm clouds rolled in, blocking out the usual calm of evening. A flash of lightning illuminated her yard, casting fat silhouettes that made her heart leap. Suddenly she saw a child standing in the shadows, small and indistinct, almost ethereal, with a chill that ran colder than the air. "Liam!" she whispered, her voice trembling as her hands shook. But an inhuman whisper rippled through the air, a cacophony of childlike laughter intertwining with her own name. Panic clutched at her lungs, freezing time as darkness encroached. She stood on her porch, heart racing, caught between terror and instinct as the specter loomed closer. What was it? And more terrifying, where was Liam? Sarah's breath came in ragged gasps, her heart thundering like a drum in the silence of the night. The child, if it was truly a child, slowly stepped into the flickering light, revealing a face that twisted her stomach into knots. Its eyes were wide and sunken, dark circles framing them as if they hadn't seen sunlight in years. "Mommy," it called again, but the voice wasn't Liam's. It was high and chirpy, yet carried an undercurrent of something wrong, something deeply unsettling. "Get back!" she screamed, as if the words could pull her son back from the grips of whatever nightmare was trying to ensnare them both. She had to find Liam. He was out there somewhere, and this grotesque figure was trying to lead her away. Did it have him? Did it want her too? With trembling hands she yanked open the door, the wooden frame creaking ominously. Every instinct warned her to stay inside. But every second felt crucial as she called, "Liam! Where are you?" From the darkness, the laughter shifted. It grew louder, wrapping around her like a twisted blanket. It reverberated with a sense of mockery, teasing her as she stepped into the cold, damp night. She squinted towards Mr. Thompson's house, the windows glowing eerily as if lit by an unseen source. He watched from the shadows, an immovable statue in the swirling storm around him. The wind howled, carrying with it echoes of other faded voices. "Mommy, come play," the sweet sing-song quelled itself around her mind, pulling her down paths she dared not wander. Her stomach churned. She could feel her resolve beginning to slip. "I don't want to play," she shouted, clenching her fists. "Where's my son?" Just then, from the corner of her eye, she caught movement. A flicker, like a candle struggling to stay lit. Her heart dropped again. "Liam?" She turned her head, but confusion clouded her gaze as the shadows seemed to dance, rearranging themselves. She stepped forward, the ground squishing beneath her bare feet, and there more laughter, piercing through the thick despair, coming from around the side of Thompson's house. It was too enticing, too innocent, and it beckoned her like a siren's call. What if it was Liam? Torn between fear and hope, she fought to swallow her rising panic. She edged towards the sound, heart hammering against her ribcage. "Liam!" She screamed again, her voice raw and desperate, echoing into the darkness. Suddenly, a flash of lightning sliced through the sky, illuminating the garden behind Thompson's home. And there, crouched among the crooks of overgrown bushes, was what she recognized as her son, the true form of Liam, wide-eyed and trembling, frozen in place. But it wasn't just him. There were others. Shadows of children played in the murky light, their faces still and haunting. They stared at her with eyes glazed over, each one reflecting a glimmer of the same despair she felt. "No!" she gasped, stumbling back. "What did you do to them?" But before any answer could come, a bone-chilling wind swept through, and the laughter erupted into a cacophony, filling her with an all-consuming dread. Her mind scrambled as she realized something horrible. They weren't just shadows, they were echoes of the lost. "Sarah," a whisper broke through, and her blood ran cold. It was Mr. Thompson, stepping onto his porch, his smile wider than ever. "Come join them." With terror surging through her, Sarah spun around, racing back toward her house, every nerve screaming for her to flee. The shadows twisted and surged, reaching for her, but her instincts pushed her to run. As she burst through her front door, she slammed it shut, her back pressed against the wood as her chest heaved. The laughter subsided but lingered in her mind like a symphony of horror. Where was Liam? And what price would she pay to bring him back? The moment of quiet felt unnaturally still. Her senses buzzed, every shadow in her home felt alive, each creak whispered of doom. The lingering chill seeped into her bones, amplifying her nightmare. Then it struck her, the laughter hadn't stopped. It still echoed faintly, this time from inside her house. "Mommy!" The voice was unmistakably Liam's. She turned slowly, dread pooling in her stomach, as the sound grew closer. What was waiting for her in the dark? The air felt thick, oppressive, as Sarah's heart thudded in her chest like a caged animal. "Liam?" she whispered, her voice trembling, caught somewhere between hope and dread. The house, once a sanctuary, now loomed around her like a towering prison, shadows creeping and curling in every corner. "Mommy!" came the soft, haunting call again. It dripped with familiarity, yet something in the tone chilled her to the bone. She strained her ears, trying to pinpoint the direction of the sound, but it seemed to echo from everywhere, and nowhere all at once. Mustering what little courage remained within her, she took a step deeper into the dim living room. Moonlight filtered through the curtains, casting twisted shapes that danced across the walls, like watching a sinister play unfold. She held her breath, trying to listen for the delicate sound of her son's soft footfalls, the undeniable warmth of his presence. But the shadows kept shifting, teasing her vision. "Liam! Where are you?" Panic threatened to erupt, clawing up her throat. "Answer me!" Again there was laughter, giddy, childlike, yet sharp as glass. It echoed from the hallway, cutting through the suffocating atmosphere. She felt sick, every fiber of her body urging her to run, to escape. Yet she couldn't abandon him. Not now. Fighting the urge to turn and flee, she steeled herself and stepped cautiously towards the hallway. The air grew colder with every step. Goosebumps pricked her skin, and her breath came out in shallow puffs, dissipating into the frigid air. "Mommy," the voice was closer now, a soft whimper tinged with fear. Her hands trembled as she reached the edge of the hallway. Every step was a battle against the rising tide of terror washing over her. "Liam!" she cried, strained desperation spilling over. "I'm coming!" Just ahead, she saw the outline of the kitchen door slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness beyond. The voice peaked again, sweet yet taunting. It had lost all innocence. "Mommy, please come here." With her heart racing, she pushed the door open, the creaking sound almost too loud in the quiet. In the kitchen, shadows clung to the corners like malevolent spirits. The table was cold and empty, but she could sense something lurking just beyond the threshold. She stepped inside, scanning the room. Nothing, just emptiness. And then, a chill ran down her spine, the hairs on her neck stood on end. The refrigerator hummed ominously, its low drone a cruel contrast to the growing silence, echoing like whispered warnings in her ears. "Liam?" She could barely muster the courage to call again. She was losing him, losing her grip on sanity, but just then, she felt a light brush against her leg. Cold and smooth, a small touch that sent her mind spiraling. "Mommy," the voice came again, now unmistakably behind her. Heart racing, she spun around, but all she found was the oppressive silence of the kitchen. Clutching her chest, she fought the urge to scream. She couldn't afford to let fear win. Then, from the corner of her eye, movement caught her gaze. A small figure, indistinct but undeniably there, fleeting across the doorway to the living room. "Come on, Mommy," it beckoned, but the voice warped again. "You can't leave them." "Leave who?" she gasped. "Liam." But she didn't move. Time seemed suspended, every moment stretching, as she faced the fact that something was very wrong. There was no way that was her son. Not now. "Join us," it whispered, its voice now a cacophony, layered with the cries of the lost. The laughter erupted once more, filling the house with an insatiable echo. She felt hands small, icy fingers brushing against her back, pulling her toward the dark hallway, away from the kitchen. Panic surged. She forced herself forward, trying to escape the grasp of the growing shadows. "Get away from me!" she screamed, charging towards the front door as echoes of terrified laughter chased her. Each step felt like running through molasses, the spectral children chanting in her mind, clawing closer. No, she couldn't be trapped in this nightmare, but they wouldn't let her go. As she reached for the door's handle, the shadows closed in, swirling around her, voices rising to a deafening crescendo. In the very depths of her panic, she wondered who was truly lost here? What price would she pay to find her son? The door swung open, but a scream of terror froze her in place. What awaited her on the other side? What dark entity had gripped Liam? The storm of shadows waited hungrily, swirling outside, whispering his name. Would he answer her call? The night air outside felt charged with an energy that sent tremors through Sarah's body. Her heart raced, caught in a whirlwind of fear and desperation. The darkened porch stretched before her, an unfathomable abyss that held the promise of escape, but harbored unseen dangers just as labyrinthine as the house itself. She stepped outside, the chill biting at her skin as the door creaked shut behind her, pursuing shadows retreating momentarily from her sight. But the laughter remained, echoing, mocking. "Liam!" she called again, voice trembling, shattered pieces of hope tumbling from her lips. The shadows danced in her peripheral vision, swirling, beckoning her closer. They seemed to swell with the night's chill, an invitation wrapped in malevolence. She refused to look back, forcing her legs to carry her down the steps, away from the ghastly cries drifting through the air. As she moved, the world around her twisted trees loomed like ominous sentinels, their leaves whispering secrets she'd never want to hear. An urge to run bubbled inside her as she reached the edge of her yard, but instinct told her to linger, to listen. "Mommy, come play," the voice, sweet and pleading, slithered through the air like smoke. It was so familiar, it felt like a sharp blade sliding into her gut. A flicker caught her eye. Just beyond the driveway, a dark shape hovered, undulating like a mirage. "Join us," it whispered again, the phrase seeping into her bones, compelling her to step forward. Her breath hitched as her feet refused to obey, rooted to the spot in dread. From the shadows emerged a childlike figure, small, with hollow eyes that seemed to absorb the light around it. "Liam?" Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The figure smiled, but the smile was sharp, devoid of innocence. "We've been waiting," it sang, drifting closer, arms outstretched. She stumbled backward, her heart racing in wild panic. "No! Get away from me!" Desperation clawed at her throat as she turned and bolted down the overgrown path leading away from the house. The laughter of other voices joined the first, a twisted chorus echoing through the night, giving chase. The sounds swelled behind her, dark silhouettes forming in the corners of her vision. She darted off the path into the freezing grass, the blades snagging at her ankles. The air felt heavier with every step, thickened by the encroaching darkness. "Mommy, it's so much fun here," chimed the voices, eerily harmonious. "You'll like it. Come on." Fear fueled her legs, but shadows clung to her like a chill that sank deep within her bones. She could barely breathe, lungs seizing as she glanced back. Against the backdrop of her home, a dark mass gathered, a silhouette of lost children, twisting in the moonlight's pale glow, faces echoing with the horrors of eternity. Fighting the overwhelming urge to turn and give in, she raced towards the street, desperation anchoring her resolve. The laughter warped, rising into a crescendo of chaos, and in that moment she felt it, the stunning realization that all her instincts were forged from the dread of what these shades intended. "Help me!" she screamed, a raw plea that shattered the night. But the reply was immediate, a wailing of mournful laughter that filled every crevice of her mind, clawing its way into her heart. As she reached the pavement, she dared one last glance back at the horror. The fleeting figures paused, then twisted, as if in a macabre dance, and they whispered a single, echoed message. "We are your family now." Panic surged anew. The road ahead felt endless, shadowed and uncertain. But she couldn't look back. She had to push against the terror, to trust in the thrum of her heart urging her onwards. Yet, as she moved closer to the road, a primal dread sank its teeth in once more. A laugh broke from behind her, not childlike but deep, guttural, a sound that undeniably did not belong to any innocent soul. "Don't let them catch you, Mommy." What price was she truly paying now? Were they right behind her? Would she ever be free? The asphalt glimmered ahead like a false promise, but the darkness pressed in heavy and relentless. Time felt suspended, every heartbeat echoing in her ears as something in the shadows shifted, and another laugh, one laden with malice, wrapped around her. What lurked just out of sight, waiting to reach for her next? Her breath came in ragged gasps as she pounded against the pavement, the cold air stinging her lungs. Each step felt like a battle against invisible chains trying to drag her back to that forsaken place. The laughter echoed behind her, twisted and taunting, as if they were children at play toying with their prey. Sarah glanced over her shoulder. The shadows had shifted closer, a wave of darkness extending across the ground like a vast creature emerging from its lair. Her heart plummeted. The voices morphed into a single, collective murmur, an unsettling chant that filled the air around her. "Mommy, don't leave us!" With renewed terror, she sprinted, adrenaline surging through her veins. They were getting faster. The realization hit her like a slap in the face. It was just one shadow that had begun the chase. Countless faces lurked within that darkness, lost souls that wanted her to join them. Just then, a sharp pain lanced through her ankle. She stumbled, collapsing to the ground, the world spinning around her. Grass scraped against her palms as a guttural voice erupted from the shadows. "You should have stayed." She scrambled to her feet as panic coursed through her body, sending a shiver down her spine. Ignoring the pain, she darted into the street, her eyes wide with terror. A single light flickered down the way, the faint glow of a street lamp waiting for her like a beacon in the chaos. "Please! Help!" she screamed, her voice nearly drowned in the cacophony of darkness that pressed closer. But the street remained silent, empty. No one was there to hear her cry. The realization seeped in with a chilling certainty she was utterly alone. As she neared the light, it flickered again, painting moving shadows across the pavement. With each step forward, she could feel the darkness writhe, as if disturbed by her presence. The laughter rose once more, blending with the wind and mocking her desperate hope. "Come play with us, Sarah. We're your friends." She reached the light, cold sweat dripping down her forehead. It only offered partial security, illuminating just enough to keep the looming shadows at bay, not enough to drive them back. There was barely a flicker of warmth left in that fragile glow. As she stood there, breaths quick and shallow, the shadows formed a broadening arc around her, whispering sweetly, their voices intertwining like a twisted nursery rhyme. "Come back, Mommy, we just want to play." Sarah shook her head vigorously. "No! Stay away!" But the echoes danced in her ears, shredding her resolve like paper. She felt herself wavering as doubt gnawed at her core. What if they really were here to play? What if they wanted her to be part of their world? "Liam," she called, her voice breaking. The wind swept her words away, leaving behind only silence. Just when she thought she might collapse under the weight of despair, the sudden rustling brought her attention. Off to her left, a shadow broke free and hurtled toward the light, arms flailing. Hope surged through her. Could it be? The figure drew closer, slipping into view, and her heart nearly stopped. It was another child, but the features were gaunt, skin taut over bones, and the eyes, those hollow, haunting eyes, bore nothing like innocence. The figure grinned, revealing an unsettling width, as it echoed the shadows surrounding her. "Mommy, I miss you." Sarah shivered as dread tightened around her throat. This was not Liam. It couldn't be. She took a step back, eyes wide with terror. The warmth of the street lamp flickered again, casting long shadows that flicked toward the figure, twisting it into something grotesque. "Join us, Sarah. You belong with us now." The voice was distorted, an unnatural wind carrying whispers that tugged at her sanity. "Get away!" she screamed, terror amplifying her voice as she turned to flee. But the darkness surged, shapes racing forward, eager to collect her soul. They were right behind her now, multiplying, clinging to her back like a nightmare refusing to release her. The darkness closed in, hungry whispers filling her mind, demanding to be a part of her forever. She could no longer tell where the shadows ended and where she began. What fresh terror awaited if she stumbled into that yawning abyss? Would Liam be waiting, or had he already been consumed? Somewhere behind, the laughter echoed once more, a dreadful sound that painted reverberating dread deep within her heart, a promise that the night was far from over. Sarah's heart raced as she tore through darkened streets, every corner an opportunity for the shadows to ensnare her. The laughter faded into a haunting symphony, an echoing reminder of the agony she was desperate to escape. She pounded her feet on the pavement, each step resonating like a desperate plea for mercy. Shadows danced just beyond her sight, always a heartbeat away, hovering on the edges as if deciding when to strike. Her breath came in sharp bursts, eyes scanning for any sign of salvation, any flicker of hope beyond the oppressive darkness. A flickering sign caught her attention. It was an old diner, abandoned but illuminated by a flickering neon light sputtering open. With no time to ponder whether it was wise or foolish, she dashed for the entrance. The door creaked ominously as she shoved it open, stepping into the stale air that seemed to hold its breath. Inside, the diner was cloaked in shadows, tables overturned, chairs knocked askew, remnants of a hurried exit. But more chilling was the feeling of being watched. She could sense the eyes upon her, lurking in the corners. The old jukebox in the corner sputtered to life, blaring out a warped, old-time tune, sending icy fingers of dread racing up her spine. Just a song playing in an empty diner, she murmured, trying to convince herself there was a logical explanation. Yet the twinkling notes twisted in the air like mocking laughter, a prelude to deeper fears creeping in. "Liam!" she shouted again, her voice echoing against the walls. Where are you? The silence swallowed her words, and she felt even more alone. Her knees buckled as she slumped against the table, eyes darting around the empty room. The cold light from the diner's sign washed in through the windows, illuminating cobwebs and dust, transforming the space into an eerie museum of memories. Out of the corner of her eye, a shadow flickered by the door. Panic surged like wildfire. She shot up, almost stumbling over a broken chair as she swung around to face the exit. Please let it be him, she begged silently. Gritting her teeth, Sarah took cautious steps toward the door, her pulse pounding louder than the jukebox's dying song. Suddenly, a figure slipped into the faint illumination. A boy too thin, pale as moonlight. Even in the dim glow, Sarah recognized those hollow eyes. Hope twisted into horror. The boy smiled, revealing a mouth too wide, too eager for connection. Mommy! I found you, he cooed, voice dripping sweetness that sent chills racing down her spine. He stepped forward, shadows clinging to him like a second skin. Liam! She gasped, jolting back. But this wasn't he, her son, not anymore. It was a grotesque imitation, a marionette with strings pulled by some malevolent force. As she stumbled backward, a chorus of whispers spiraled around her. Join us, Mommy? Don't you want to play? A cold sweat drenched her as the jukebox sputtered to silence, leaving only the sound of her ragged breaths and the encroaching whisper of shadows. The atmosphere thickened, suffocating her, squeezing the air from her lungs. Without thinking, Sarah turned and ran deeper into the diner, every instinct screaming for her to escape. Behind her, the laughter morphed into a roar of fury, an unholy storm hungry for her soul. Help! Someone help! She cried out again, but the shadows here seemed to thirst for her despair. And then she saw an exit door at the back, leading into darkness. It was her only way out. But as she sprinted toward it, a chill swept through her. A cold hand, a ghostly touch on her shoulder yanked her back. The figure of the boy stood before her, eyes dark as the void, laughter ringing in her ears as he whispered, "You can't leave us." With horror and desperation, she wrenched herself free and burst through the door, throwing herself into the night. She tumbled outside once more into the starlit darkness. But the moment her feet hit the ground, the shadows leaped after her, reaching, grasping, hungry. Chaos exploded around her, the voices now merged into something monstrous as she darted down the alley. A confrontation loomed ahead, a choice that would decide her fate. Would she confront the shadows, or would she succumb to their twisted call? The heaviness in the air thickened, and Sarah knew that whatever lay in wait, she couldn't run forever. She glanced back at the diner, its windows like dark eyes watching her, filled with everything that could devour her whole. And behind her, the laughter echoed louder. It was just the beginning. What more awaited her? The night was far from over. Adrenaline surged through Sarah as she stumbled down the alley, the icy fingers of darkness grasping at her ankles. Every shadow felt alive, flickering and swirling like malevolent spirits. She could hear them, whispers swirling in the air, intermingled with flickers of laughter. It was a cruel mockery of joy, teasing her with the memory of happier times before this nightmare consumed her. She pressed onward, desperately searching for any sign of safety. Around her, the buildings seemed to loom taller, deeper, swallowing her in their darkness. The chilly night air stung her skin, but the dread that sat in her chest was far colder. Breathless, she forced her legs to move faster, heart pounding in her ears like a war drum. Then she spotted a flicker of movement at the far end of the alley. A figure, bathed in shadow yet distinctly human, stepped out of the blackness. For a brief moment, hope surged inside her. "Liam?" she called out, her voice hoarse. But as the figure stepped into the dim light of a flickering street lamp, her heart sank. It wasn't he, her son. It was a woman, cloaked in darkness, with hollow eyes that echoed the very void around them. A twisted smile spread across her lips, revealing sharp, gleaming teeth. "Not quite," the woman crooned, her voice dripping with malice. "But you can join us, dear Sarah. Your little Liam has been so lonely." The shadows stirred at her feet, wrapping around her like serpents. Panic clawed at her throat as she tried to recoil, but her body wouldn't respond. It was as if the shadows were anchoring her to the ground, holding her hostage while the woman glided closer. "No!" Sarah screamed, summoning every ounce of strength to break free from the shadow's grip. "I wouldn't let you take me." With a surge of desperation, she lunged to the side, breaking free from the ethereal chains. She darted past the woman, who cackled with twisted glee as Sarah rushed headlong into the street. But there was another sound, more laughter, only louder, echoing from the depths of the darkness behind her. Rounding the corner, she stumbled into a deserted street. The dim glow of an overhead light illuminated a brick wall that seemed so familiar. The old park where she used to take Liam. Hope ignited in her chest, memories clinging to her like a lifeline. She could escape, she just had to reach the swings, the last place she had seen him. But shadows slipped through the cracks of the buildings, pooling around her feet, swirling into angry shapes. "Come back!" they hissed, echoing the taunting voice of the woman. "Yes, waiting." Fueled by fear, Sarah's legs propelled her forward, but the laughter grew, filling the air, drowning her thoughts. Despair threatened to choke her as she reached the park's entrance. The swings swayed eerily, creaking as if they echoed the laughter of twisted souls. She couldn't think, she could only move. But as she stepped onto the familiar path, she hesitated. What if Liam was there, but twisted like the boy in the diner? Could she face that horror? Struggling with the dilemma, she took a deep breath. The shadows were closing in. They thrummed with energy, a dark river flowing toward her. There was no choice. If he was there, she had to confront him. "Liam!" she called out, voice steady with resolve, though every instinct screamed at her to turn back. But a hushed silence enveloped her as the shadows receded slightly, forming a silhouette, something familiar yet hauntingly wrong. A figure emerged, and her heart sank as she recognized those hollow eyes, piercing through the darkness this time. It was real. "Mommy," it whispered, voice tinted with an eerie sweetness. "Look what I found." The figure raised its hands, revealing something glistening, a toy. A toy from another world, one she wished had never been made. And then the laughter returned. But it was a different sound now, deeper, roaring from the shadows, threatening to swallow her whole. Was she too late? As the laughter crescendoed, Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her. She braced herself for what was to come. She was no longer fleeing but standing at the brink of the abyss. What awaited her in this distorted reunion? Was Liam still inside, or had something far more sinister taken his place? The night stretched ahead, dark and heavy, weighed down by the choice she had made. The gleam of the toy caught the dim light, casting reflections like sinister stars against the pavement, taunting Sarah as she struggled to breathe. "Liam?" she whispered, the name hanging heavy, almost a prayer. The child's voice, so sweet, so familiar, echoed with a haunting discord that knotted her stomach. "Look what I found," the figure repeated, presenting the toy forward. But those eyes, those empty voids, spoke of something else entirely. The laughter surged again, wrapping around her, gripping her heart with icy fingers. The shadows danced closer, eager to join the twisted game. "Mommy," it said, voice tinged with something dark. "I've been waiting for you. Come play with me." Sarah took a tentative step back, her instincts screaming, but the ground felt alive beneath her feet, trembling in rhythm with the laughter that grew louder. Who was this thing before her? It resembled her son, but the essence felt wrong, an echo pulled from the edges of a nightmare. "No," she choked, shaking her head violently. Memories of tender hugs and soft laughter surged through her mind, driving her to fight this dark magic. She gripped her own necklace, a simple silver charm that Liam used to adore, a relic of better days. It was the only thing she had left. "You don't belong here," she cried, her voice rising, piercing through the deluge of taunts. "You're not him." "Mommy, you'll hurt my feelings." The figure's voice turned darker, more sinister, as it swayed dangerously with an unnatural grace. The shadows writhed, stretching out like claws reaching for her collar and arms. Fear lanced through her, cold and sharp. If she didn't act now, she'd be pulled into their wicked games forever. With one swift motion, she turned her back on the grotesque figure, charging toward the swings. The chains clanked ominously in the night, a distorted symphony of her childhood. With shaking hands, she clung to the old wooden frame, blending her memories with the raw fear coursing through her veins. Liam! You need to fight. Please, I'm here. The air crackled, a strange tension that filled her lungs and pressed against her insides. Was it hope fueled by desperation? It went silent for a heartbeat, a moment where time paused to listen. The laughter faded, replaced by a heavy, expectant silence that chilled her to the bone. No! The hollow figure screamed, the sound piercing the stillness like a knife. You're not leaving! He needs you here! Sarah closed her eyes, blocking out the specter of her son. She grasped the necklace tighter. I wouldn't let you take me. I chose you, Liam. I will never give up on you. With those words, she felt a strange warmth at her core. A light, thin yet intoxicating, enveloped her like a shield against the shadows, spilling from the charm like a beacon to pierce the enveloping night. Suddenly, the dark laughter escalated into a cacophony of despair, twisting into a frenzy. The shadows recoiled, quivering like wounded beasts. The figure faltered, eyes flickering. Was it fear? Mommy, it pleaded again, but this time the tone was laced with desperation, as if it was the remnants of Liam fighting to be heard. In that fragile moment, doubts groaned in her mind. Was he still there deep down? Could she reach him? Or had she conjured an illusion in her quest to find him? The ground trembled once more, the laughter pulsed around her. Her heart raced, the stakes escalating, and the whispers returned. You cannot escape the darkness, Sarah. It will always be waiting. Before she could muster the courage to speak, the shadows surged forward anew, nearly engulfing her. No! She shouted, bracing for impact, but as she strained against the encroaching abyss, an unexpected surge ignited deep within her. But could her love be enough to defy the forces closing in? And in that charged moment, a new terror unfurled as the laughter warped into howls of rage. What happens when love battles darkness at the boundary of sanity? The answer was just beyond her reach. The shadows swirled like a tempest, their dark tendrils reaching for her, grasping, pulling. Sarah felt a magnetic force tugging at the edges of her mind, urging her to succumb to despair. Her heart pounded violently, echoing like a drum calling a soldier to battle. She wasn't ready to fall. Not yet. Liam! She screamed, the urgency of the moment pushing her voice to a breaking point. An odd barrier seemed to form around her, sparked by her desperate shout. The shadows paused, their advance halting just before her. Were they unsure? Was the force of her love enough to repel them, even temporarily? The figure wavered, twisting in the dim light as though caught between two worlds. The resemblance to Liam flickered, wavering like a mirage. She could see his features deforming, distorting into something grotesque, yet there lingered the familiar softness that brought tears to her eyes. Her heart ached, longing to believe it was truly him, her son. Mommy, it was a low murmur this time, threatening like a whisper from the abyss. Why won't you play? You said we could always play together. Each syllable dripped with a malevolence that chilled her further. No! I want to play your game. Sarah gasped, the warmth of the charm pulsing against her chest like a steady heartbeat. She felt its glow intermingling with her resolve, fusing into a weapon against the night. But the shadows were relentless. They twined around her limbs, sticky and suffocating, like spider silk constricting its prey. Liam needs you, Mommy. The figure lunged closer, its eyes momentarily shifting back to the vibrant blue she adored, before returning to that abyssal void. It reached out a clawed hand, elongated and threatening, desperate to grasp her. A sudden wave of memories crashed over Sarah, days spent in laughter, quiet whispers during bedtime stories, her son's tiny hand enveloped in hers. Those memories fueled her, igniting a clarity in the chaos like a flare in the night sky. I will not abandon you, she roared, her voice carrying an authority that broke through the shadows. She squeezed the necklace tighter, amplifying the light, the shield she desperately needed. With each breath she drew strength from those memories, mingling love with fierce determination. The shadows recoiled again, hissing in disbelief. The air thickened, alive with tension as the grotesque laughter turned to agonizing wails. You're making a mistake. He already chose me. No. I don't believe you. She could see the confusion flickering in the figure's empty gaze. The shadows slumped momentarily, hesitant as if battling against themselves. The chains of the swings creaked ominously, resonating with her defiance. Mommy? The voice softened, cracking as if it hit the edges of weariness. Was that her son's plea buried beneath the layers of darkness? Yes, it's me. I'm right here. It was a risk of frail hope she had to cling to before despair washed over her entirely. In an instant, the shadows surged again, howling as if engulfed by violence. You think you can rescue him? You are too late. They screamed, a torrent of rage surging toward her, clawing and snapping. Time bent, stretching thin. The world closed in, and fear threatened to drown her. But Sarah held her ground, focusing on the warmth blooming in her chest. The charm radiated fiercely, pushing against the gathering darkness. Liam! Fight! She cried. Fight with me! Suddenly, the ground shook violently, a rumbling resonance that echoed in her bones as shadows writhed and twisted in a frenzy. Mommy! She felt a shift, a pull, and for a single fleeting moment, a flicker of light cut through the obscurity the face of her son, perfect and untainted, breaking through. Could the light truly break the curse? In the maelstrom, the air grew suffocatingly thick, filled with echoed cries, and the darkness screamed back, louder than ever. The final clash of wills ignited, and Sarah realized she stood at a precipice where love and darkness collided. What would happen when the final song was sung? When the darkness revealed its final form? In the pulsating heart of the chaos, Sarah felt the very essence of her love battling against the tide of despair. The shadows loomed, hungry and relentless, while she stood ground, fueled by the memories of Liam. Their laughter echoed in her mind like chimes of distant bells, every ring urging her forward. Liam! She shouted again, her voice breaking the veil of darkness. You must fight, my love! I'm here! For a moment, the shadows recoiled, whispers wavering just enough for her to see flickers of light sunlit memories of Liam's beaming smile, the sound of his giggles as they played hide and seek, the warmth of his small hand intertwined with hers. Hope surged in her chest. Mommy! Help me! The figure before her twisted again, as if caught in a battle between light and dark. The resemblance flickered in and out, a haunting blend of her beloved son and a grotesque puppet of the shadows. Fear twisted in her gut, but she refused to succumb. Get away from her! A voice rang out from the depths of the night, suddenly breaking through the tumult. A new light entered the fray. From the shadows, a new figure emerged, a man with familiar features also shaped by the darkness. It was her ex-husband, eyes wide, deep lines etched in his brow from a lifetime of regret. Sarah, you have to let him go. This isn't him anymore, he urged, stumbling closer, a frantic look in his eyes mirroring her own desperate energy. Stay back! Sarah screamed, glaring at him and the shadows curling around him, the darkness still hungry for their despair. No, please! Just listen! He implored. This is what they want you to suffer, to stagnate in this nightmare. Let him go! He is not yours to save. With a forceful rising voice, she turned back to the figure that resembled her son. No! I refuse to let you take him. The shadows surged angrily, like an ocean wave crashing against the rocks. You think love will save you, Sarah? You think memories can combat a soul lost? No! I will not accept defeat. Igniting the warmth from her charm, she closed her eyes, summoning everything that made Liam, the laughter, the joy, the stolen moments of pure happiness. Listen to me, Liam. You can fight this. I believe in you. Within the maelstrom, a beam of light erupted from the charm around her neck, illuminating the surrounding darkness, carving a path through the ethereal perils that strived to claw at her flesh. Those shadows screeched, twisting and contorting, retreating away as if burned by the revelation that came from within her wholehearted love. Help me, Mommy! Something broke, shattered inside the void. The figure swayed, a light flickering through the darkness. I don't want to lose you. No one is losing anyone. Sarah shouted, determination coursing through her. Fight back! You have the strength! You are special! You are my son! The laugh that erupted from the shadows felt like ice slicing through her resolve, but she anchored herself in her memories, surrounding herself with the importance of every moment, every hug, every bedtime story. Liam! Find your way back to me! In that charged moment, the shadows ripped apart, revealing a glimpse of the true Liam behind the haunted visage. It was just a second but felt like forever. She could see his wild blue eyes glimmering momentarily, wrestling against the storm. Mommy! He cried, and the shadows prevailed, screaming in agony. Liam! She echoed, laughing as the warmth grew, embracing the echoes of darkness around her. Come to me! Take my hand! Together! As if responding to her call, the true form of Liam surged forth, breaking free from the grip. The shadows swirled violently, battling against the ties they had held so cruelly. But Sarah held on, wrapped in the warmth of love. Together, my son! Together! With an electric pulse, the light from her charm exploded, engulfing the darkness, twisting the void into brilliant beams that burst through like the dawn. The remaining shadows hissed and splintered, splattered against the brilliance, shrieking into oblivion. When the light settled, Sarah collapsed to the ground, chest heaving, heart pounding as light danced before her. In the warmth of the new dawn, there he was, her beloved Liam stood before her, eyes wide, tears flowing freely down his cheeks. But his smile was genuine. Mommy! He whispered, and this time it was not the call of a shadow but of her sweet boy, his arms reaching for her. Liam! She rushed forward, wrapping him in a tight embrace, relief washing over her like a tidal wave. I thought I'd lost you. I will never let that happen again. As they held each other, the remnants of darkness dissipated, curling like smoke into the vibrant morning air. They had escaped. Yet, amidst the freshness of the dawn, a chill ran down her spine as she felt the weight of loss around her, the sacrifices made, the shadows that lingered. But for now, they were safe. That was enough. Let us go home, Sarah whispered, her eyes brimming with fresh hope, the future opening before them like a canvas yet to be painted, filled with endless possibility. As they walked hand in hand, the scars of the night would fade with time, reminders of a battle won, but all that mattered was that they were together. She took a deep breath, allowing the warmth of sunlight to melt away the night, knowing they could face whatever challenges awaited them, together. And as the sun rose higher, laughter echoed once more, not that of the shadows but of life triumphant and free. Now, if you've enjoyed this thrilling conclusion, you need to subscribe now to keep up with all the pulse-pounding stories coming your way. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and share your thoughts in the comments. What did you think of the ending? Let us make our voices heard. And for heaven's sake, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see where this story ends. Together, we can keep the spooky stories alive.